Okay. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at the head,
Mhm.
and we're going to do it in a slightly different way to what the way that I would normally work with the project. Normally, if I was working with somebody with a project in development, TV series or film, first question I'd ask is, what's the theme? What do you think the theme is that you're dealing with? And then I would then work with them to sort of map out the story as they believe it is, to look at the mechanics of the story to sort of bring that theme to the surface. And then we would then be asking ourselves all the time, have we identified the right theme or have we identified the right, story mechanics? But in your case, it's different because the thing's made, and I think you made 3 seasons actually. Although I don't know much about it, I haven't watched it. All I've seen is the trailer, and I've read a little bit of blurb on IMDb. I know very little, but maybe you can give us a little bit of sort of setup in terms of why this particular project is interesting to you.
It's interesting to me because it's my biggest project ever and my passion project, and it has been my professional life for almost 5, 6 years
Oh,
doing 3 seasons. But what happened with the head, which is really interesting and very strange for me, because I, like you, also believe in finding the theme first and then working out. But when I was first introduced to the head, there was like a tweak of a story, and then from that we went and discovered what the first 10 minutes of the show are going to be, and then attached writers, and then started writing the show. And even though I am very much theme centric, we were writing the show without really discussing what the theme was. And we finished the entire first season, which was a huge success, and not realizing what the theme is. Like, I remember that once we finished season one and we started doing interviews, and many of the questions are what is the series about? And it was hard to pinpoint what the series was about. We
right.
just couldn't nail it. Like we said, it might be about this, it might be about that, but honestly, none of the answers we gave were satisfying because they were not true. And then the head was supposed to be a limited series, only 6 episodes, not returning. But then it became really, really successful, and the studio said, "Let's do another season." And while we were looking for doing another season, and our technique was approaching writers, asking them to watch season one, and then having kind of conversation with them about what season two would be like. And most of the conversations were not good, not because the writers were not good, because nobody could really understand how to do season two. And then we went up on a call with a guy from Barcelona. His name is Jordi Balcelán. He's a playwright and a TV writer. And when the conversation opened, I asked Jordi politely, did he watch season one? And he said, yeah, I just finished it. And I, milking for compliments, says, how did you like it? And he said, it was okay. Okay, that's it. He said, yeah, it's okay. It's an okay series. And I said, okay, we're thinking of season number two, and we're wondering what it's about. And he said, what do you mean? The answer is right there in your season one. It's so clear to me what season number two should be about. And then when he said it, it was the most embarrassing and rewarding moment of my life, because I felt at the same time super idiot and super lucky. Like it's a
Yeah.
light bulb moment that tells you everything. And once he said that, I could go back to season one and everything was so organized and so clear because he found the theme. And from then on, it was really, really clear.
Wow, so you set the bar high now. So we're gonna try and get in there.
Teaser. That's
Although
a teaser.
he got to watch the whole of the season one, I got to read like a small paragraph on IMDb. But hopefully through this process. So look, what I've got here is I've got a nice big table, and what we're going to do is we're going to just sort of map out onto that table. The different characters, and as mapping, then we can start talking about what's actually going on. So who should we talk about first? Which character would you like to talk about first? Who's a good entry into the story?
So it's a duo. It's two characters. It's a protagonist and antagonist.
Tell me the
Uh,
protagonist.
it's tricky to say,
Okay. Or
but
tell me just
I
one
would.
of them. I mean, I don't mind if it's a.
All right. We start with Dr. Arthur Wilde.
What sort of guy? What sort of guy is he? What sort of bloke is he?
Oh, very, very smart, very, very arrogant. Uh,
Is he a white coat doctor? Oh God, I haven't put the thing on. Hold on.
no, no, he's
Is
he's a doctor of biology, of research, of
I
chemistry.
mean,
He
I've got a.
is.
I'll give you three guys here, and you tell me which one's most likely to be him.
Oh, I like the guy with the white robe. I
Okay.
think we'll go with him.
Okay, cool.
He's a
So here he is.
scientific researcher. He's not a doctor. He's not an MD.
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Scientific researcher, and he's gone roughly how old would you say, just to set the scene?
I would say 50, 60.
50, 60.
I would
And
say.
he's someone that is used to go down to Antarctica, right? So he goes down to Antarctica a lot, does he?
He's a very renowned scientist. He has done research on climate change and climate crisis.
Right.
He had he had a major discovery about how to slow down this climate change through a
Oh.
bacteria that they found out in Antarctica. He
Oh, so
won
in a
many
way
awards for that.
he might hold the key.
Completely, he holds the key to maybe
Okay.
saving this entire planet.
Oh, that's that's an endeavor.
Yeah,
All right,
as
okay.
simple as
Bit
that.
of response. So he might hold the key, and he goes
Mhm.
down to. I made a little space station earlier because I knew we were going to. He goes down to Antarctica. There's a load of ice. Okay, right. Um,
Good.
and so there's Antarctica, and he goes down there once in a while because what does he need about that place in relation to his key for saving the planet?
So the research is around the bacteria that he found in the South Pole. And what happens in the story is that usually in research stations in the South Pole, during the summer, it's loaded with people and scientists, and everybody's working around the clock and all of that. But in the
Right.
winter, because the conditions are really hard, only the essential people are left behind to continue their
So you have this
scientific
sort of
work.
time frame of light and dark, right?
Exactly.
So
And
you
the
have the
show
light period.
starts at the last day of light, which is the 29th of April.
Right.
That's when we start, when a group of 10 people, led by this Arthur, remains in this scientific station called Polaris 6,
Right here.
and we are following what is going to be their winter. So
Right.
all of
So
them remaining
he's
there are
been there.
called.
Sorry to interrupt. He's been there the
Oh,
whole of
no.
the summer.
Mhm.
And was it during his stay that he found this, or has he just discovered this key to solving the world's problems in this previous summer?
No, so he discovered it 8 years ago.
Ah, okay, okay,
Um,
right,
and this time they are coming back to conclude what they've done there and
right.
to maybe find a breakthrough that will take it to the next step. And
Okay,
he is
cool.
and he is leading the research in that station. He
Right.
is the most important person in that station for this winter.
What was his name again? Character's name?
Dr. Arthur Wilde.
Arthur Wilde. Okay, right. So Dr. Arthur Wilde. So he's going off and he's taking what? Half the crew with him, is he?
He is taking so there are 10 people remain in the station.
Right.
Seven of them are people who have been with him in his past tenure, like 8 years ago, they were there, and
Yes.
three are newbies.
Who are those three?
So among the three, the most important character is a medical doctor. She's
Right.
called Maggie Mitchell.
So
Okay.
she's staying, right?
Hmm.
And it's the first time she's ever stayed.
Hmm.
Okay, so she's staying, and who else is staying with her?
So there are a couple of people. If I need to go by order of importance, the
Yeah.
second person that's staying is another scientist. She is called Annika.
Right.
She is like 40 something,
Yeah.
and she is Arthur Wilde's right hand. She's his second. And
Okay.
she,
There she
okay,
is.
doke.
That's right. Okay.
Yep.
And what is has he been dependent on these people just as work colleagues? There's no other relationship other than that, or I mean, are they interchangeable, or is there something about these people and their relationship to him that makes this key even more significant?
So Annika was his number two.
Right.
Um, he is very essential to his work, but he knows that.
Right.
And he treats her as somebody who has to be with him because for him, without him, she is nothing.
Right.
While for her, he is waiting for the moment to break through out of the grip of this person because she doesn't like him. She doesn't
Oh,
like the way he works. She doesn't like the way he treats his colleagues. She understands he is important. She understands he is crucial. She understands that the project they're working on is very, very important, and therefore she wants to stay in, but she's not staying there because she's happy to stay. She's staying there because for her, She has no choice.
Does he feel that even though he discovered this 8 years ago, that there's something about this that needs to still be proved, and that by keeping her close, it makes him more likely to make this more possible?
Yes, completely.
So he is
Completely
dependent on
so.
her. And is that the reason why he's making sure that she stays behind in the dark side of the 6 months?
So there are two reasons. There is the reason that we see, and there is
Yep.
the reason we discover much later on in episode 5.
Oh, okay. Do we get a sense of that right at the beginning? Do we get the sense that there is some other reason for why he's holding her back during the 6 months?
Not really.
Right, okay. Do we get a sense that she'd rather not be there during the 6 months?
Totally, because the opening scene of the show is when the summer crew is leaving and everyone goes away. And the important character that is leaving is Annika's husband. His name is Johan. He is the summer commander of the station.
Oh, yes. Okay, right. He's the son, and he's a bit of a. Is he a bit of a kind of a? Is he a bit of a knight? A bit of a.
Yeah, very much so.
Right. Okay.
Very much
Great.
so.
So he's actually leaving, and
Hmm.
it's her husband.
Sure.
And would he rather his wife came with him?
Totally.
Right. Okay.
Totally. He is very, he says, why are you staying here? Come
Right.
with
Oh,
me. You don't need to be with this guy. And she
and
says, no, I have to stay.
and why? What does she say to us as the audience as the reason for her staying? She has to stay because he's making me stay, or I have to stay because I want to stay.
He's saying, I have to stay here because if he makes a huge discovery and I'm not there, I will not be mentioned. But if
Oh
I'm
my
there
God.
and he makes a discovery, I'm part of what I've been working on for the past 8 years. So I cannot leave it right now.
Oh my God, hilarious. So in a way, there's this potential for kind of recognition, the
Yep.
gold cup of recognition. And
Yeah, yeah.
she's sort of thinking, oh, bugger, I need to hang around because it'd be really frustrating because I know my connection to this. And if it happens while I'm not around, then I won't get the recognition. So whilst I love you, I need to stay. And does the husband appreciate her reason, her rationale for staying?
He disagrees. He
Right?
thinks she is not respecting herself as she should be. He thinks she's making a mistake working with this guy. He doesn't like him.
Because he
But
doesn't believe that if she does do the good thing by him, she'll actually get the recognition that she wants.
yeah, exactly.
So he doesn't trust him.
Totally not.
Right. So basically, oh my God, they always say you shouldn't go to bed on an argument. They're actually, she's actually staying for 6 months in a station on an argument.
It's again, they love each other very much.
Right.
And although he doesn't agree, he respects her decision.
Right.
And
Okay.
but he goes away,
Yeah.
he will miss her. The show starts when he comes back
Right. Of course.
because
Yes.
when he comes back, and then when he comes back, the station is in a horrible situation.
Right.
And it's important that we have these three characters right here. Because when he comes back to the station, he finds horror,
Right.
bullet holes, blood stains, bodies. And
Bodies. Right. How many bodies?
when he comes, he finds seven characters, seven bodies, and
Right.
these seven bodies are exactly seven other people
Yes.
because he does not. There are two missing people and one identified body, and therefore the three people that he cannot find are exactly the three people standing. He cannot find Arthur, he cannot find Maggie, and he cannot find his wife.
Oh.
There's a doctor, there's technician, it's
Right.
like three people who come in with him.
Right. So he
And
comes into right. So he comes into this world at the end of the dark period, where for 6 months these guys have been alone. Has he been in communication with his wife during that period?
the 3 weeks before he comes back, the communication was lost. There was no
Right.
communication with the station, which makes him worry a little bit. And when he comes there, his biggest fear comes to life because what he suspected has actually happened. Something horrible has happened. And then he sees blood, he sees bullet, he sees the first body, and he starts suspecting. And the
I
first,
think you would do.
yeah,
Right.
so
No,
so the
that's all
first
right.
the first body that he spots is the body of Eric. Eric
Right.
is the winter commander. He's the
Right.
guy who does his job when he's away for the winter.
Okay. So there's Eric. Oh no, let's put
Okay.
Eric there. So he comes across Eric. Is he able to quickly identify all the dead people?
So what happens is while he sends his crew around the station to try and find all the people missing, they find that the kitchen door is blocked from the inside.
Right. Okay.
So They
There's-
try and forcefully break it in. And
yes.
when they break into the kitchen,
Yeah.
in one of the cabinets, they find Maggie.
Which is
She's
her.
not dead. Yeah, she's not dead. She's alive. She's shaken. She's traumatized. She's holding a knife to protect herself.
Yeah.
And she's telling them that horrible things have happened. It's hard for her to imagine and to understand what exactly happened.
Yeah.
She's very, very confused.
I'll put it more here.
At the same
Okay.
time, they find the other seven bodies.
Yeah.
One of them is an unidentified burnt body of a woman.
Ah, okay. So
So
this one here.
it might be Annika, but it also might not be Annika.
Right. Okay, I'll put
And
it here.
okay,
Okay.
so what he does is contact the police, say, listen, this and this happened, and there are many dead bodies. There's one living person who is confused, and the police says, okay,
The
don't
police
touch
back in
anything.
where? The police back
Back
where?
in Denmark.
Okay.
So police says, touch nothing, don't talk to anybody because there's a storm right now. Well, it will take us 48 hours to get there, and we will do everything. But
Ah, okay.
Johan,
So
Johan,
help is on the way, but a long way
exactly,
away.
exactly. And Johan says, listen, if that woman is not my wife, and my wife is still missing and still alive, there's no way I'm going to be waiting for 48 hours while conditions out there are horrible. But if there is a
But also presumably, not
Mhm.
only would they not sit around and do nothing, they must also be worried that they might get killed as well, because presumably they're thinking there's threat out there.
No, it's not a concern they have.
Oh, really? Why is that?
Yeah,
Is that because they just know for certain that there could be nobody else out there?
no, but they feel like because they're four men and they're physically fit, it's not a thing they fear. The thing is that they have uh, possibility that the missing person is still alive and the clock is ticking backwards. And if they are smart enough to understand what has happened, maybe there is a chance he could save his Annika and bring her back to life.
You just said
So
something
what he
interesting. You just said a clock. What clock is ticking? I
so
mean, I know that he set a clock, but he's only set a clock because of his needs to not
Yeah. So
be.
if somebody in the South Pole goes out of the station and tries to stay alive because of the conditions, the temperature, all of that, there is like a certain limit of time of how much you can survive out there without being in the station.
Ah, so do they sort of believe that they have combed the station as much as they can to ascertain that there's nobody else in the building? So therefore, their assumption is that if his wife is not the dead body, she has possibly left the building, and they need to go and find her, and they've got a limited
Exactly.
time frame to get her.
Exactly. And this is Johan's real ticking clock. He now needs to find out what has happened as quickly as possible because if there is a chance his wife is alive somewhere, he needs to find it as quick as possible and then save her. So what he does
Yeah.
is disobeying the police orders, disobeying the doctor who came with him orders. He starts questioning Maggie to understand what the hell has happened.
Why do you
So
think? Sorry,
maybe
can I just ask again? Why would questioning her go against, let's say this guy, let's say he's the doctor, and why would it go against the police? Why is that problematic, do you think? And why would we, the audience, consider that to be a conflicting issue for your main guy when really it's something that you would have thought would be fairly reasonable and wouldn't necessarily upset all of this?
so. Of course, it's jeopardizing the investigation. Once you speak to a witness and you are
Right.
not police and it's not documented properly, so it can contaminate
Yeah.
the
Okay.
scene of crime.
Yep.
And medically, the doctor says her situation physically is okay, like she's
Yeah.
suffering, but mentally she's very, very unstable. And questioning her might throw her off and get her into
Yeah.
a
I got you.
situation.
Right.
So doctor says, I advise you not to do that. But Johan says, listen, it's my wife's life.
Yeah.
I listen to nobody. I start questioning her.
Yeah, and he's also the commander, so there is a hierarchy here, right? And
Exactly.
he's able to override people, isn't he?
So he starts questioning Maggie,
Yeah,
and Maggie tells him how everything started. Um, so we go back to the past several weeks ago,
right. And
exactly just before communication was gone, which is 3 weeks ago.
okay, cool. So basically, the audience is at the same point at which our main character is into
Exactly.
at
Johan
after
is
this.
us.
Yeah. So because we're now here, so all the flashbacks we get is not is basically her retelling, and so we don't know whether or not she's a reliable witness,
Completely,
and he doesn't know if she's a reliable witness, but that's all he's got.
completely. So
Okay.
he starts questioning her, and
Yeah.
she tells him how everything started.
Right.
Everything started when Miles, who is the communication expert of the station,
One of these guys who's
suddenly,
dead.
yeah, but
Yeah.
let's
Okay.
bring him back to life just for,
Yeah. Miles.
so Miles, not for long, by the way. So we'll bring him back to life. And Miles had trouble with communication. It
Yeah.
was cutting short. So he decides that the trouble is probably in the antenna, which is outside of the station.
Right. Okay. Cool.
So he goes out to try and fix it. That's something very well. He goes out to fix it. And another guy, his name is Aki. Aki is a young Japanese scientist. He's on Arthur's team,
Right.
um, but also has some kind of a, let's say, a beginning of a romantic relationship with Maggie. They really like each other.
Okay.
And Aki is out in the snow. He's burying seal that was found dead, and
Right.
he notices Miles going away, and then he comes back. And during dinner, people start asking, "Where's Miles?" Because he doesn't come to dinner. And Aki says, "I've seen him go out, but nobody has seen him come back."
Right.
So in that situation, there's a protocol. Everybody dresses up in their winter gear and they go out searching around the station and they find Miles. But Miles is now in two pieces. There's a
Oh,
body and there's a head.
good luck with that. Okay. Cool. Right. So he's dead. Right.
Yeah, he's dead and his head is cut off. That's the
Right.
name of the show.
Right.
And
Oh
they
yes, the
bring
head.
him they're bringing him back to the station. And when they bring him back to the station, Maggie examines the body because this is the only doctor there is there, and Maggie clearly says that this is because somebody cut off his head,
Genius.
violently. He didn't lose it; it didn't
No,
just
no.
fall off; it was cut. So it means that whoever did it on purpose, and whoever did it for them to notice that he's doing it on purpose. That's a murder that is not just killing one person, but it's also indicating to the others. So they understand that they have to call for help, even though it's the middle of the winter. But when they try to communicate, the communication is not working.
But
And the
also,
only
presume it
guy,
has that. Sorry to interrupt. It has that sort of Agatha Christie aspect, which is that the killer is amongst us.
exactly.
Right. So they're now all distrusting one another. Could even be her, couldn't it? But what stops a simple kind of roster being added up to? That's not the right expression. In terms of just who was inside, who was outside, or are there sort
Exactly.
of
That's
behaviors? So
exactly what's
we.
done.
Oh,
That's
okay.
exactly what's done. So when that is done, Um, someone, I think it was Aki, but I'm not sure. Someone has spotted Niels, which is like the handyman of the
Uh,
station.
that guy
He's a
there.
big guy who
Big right.
fixes things up. He saw him while they were searching, burying something in the snow. So when they come back to the station after Aki has told them that, the station is closed.
Right.
And Niels is inside and he's not allowing them to come in. He says, you're all thinking I'm the murderer. I'm not the murderer. I'm not going to let you in. And staying outside is like death sentence. They
Okay.
managed to break in to
Yeah.
the station and they rough him up and they tie him up and they accuse him of the murder.
Right.
And he denies it. He
Right.
says, I didn't do it. After he was dead, I went back to my room and somebody planted a bloody saw in my closet. And
Oh.
I knew you wouldn't believe me. So out of fear, I went out and I hid it in the snow because I knew none of you would believe me. But
Right.
I'm innocent. I'm completely innocent.
Oh,
Um,
that's always a problem, isn't it? Okay, so
yes,
so basically, what you got is you've got a bunch of people who are completely all chaos is ensuing, right? There anarchy is
sure.
ensuing in a small space, and they're all distrusting each other, and they're all
Mhm.
believing that they're all capable of basically having killed each other. And what is the station commander doing about that? Why isn't
So
he
what
sort of?
he
Why
so
is
what
he
he
not?
decides to do, what he decides to do is to lock up Niels because they need to wait till communication is going to be okay. And then he's the suspect. So he takes him to the laundry room and he locks him up there. And
Me?
now they need to wait. They think they have the killer. So it's not a calm situation, but at least the killer is caught so they can be more
Right. So
relaxed.
they lock this guy up.
Yep.
Right, that poor guy there. Okay. And they think they've done it, and this is still in the pilot.
Yeah. So last part of the pilot
Yes.
is when Aki, that's the scientist, exactly. Aki is feeling a bit of guilt because he's the one who found he's the one who told that Niels was trying to hide something, and he's not sure he's guilty because he listened to him. He believed he's quite innocent, so he wants to go back and talk to him in order to maybe understand what has really happened. But when he gets to the laundry room and he opens the door, Niels is dead,
Oh my God.
and not just the fact that he's dead, but somebody carved a very big red V on his chest,
Oh,
like a
nice.
signal.
Right. Okay.
So the end of the first episode is they have two dead bodies. They
Yes.
understand they have a killer on the loose because he keeps killing people. He's one of them, but they have no idea which one of them it is, and that they're alone. There's no communication. And in order to survive, they need to stay alive now for 3 weeks. Can they do it or not? Wait for episode two.
Okay. But so what you've done is you've established two timelines, right? We've
True.
got two timelines, and I'm just wondering. So Johan comes into a space where obviously there's mayhem, and he's got a witness, and he's obviously trying to find information because there's a ticking clock to find his wife.
True.
And then by finding her, we unlock what happened 3 weeks ago. And by unlocking what happened 3 weeks ago, we're then brought into another story, a flashback, but actually a story that isn't just a flashback, but is actually a main part of the series, presumably, whereby we actually then get to see the way that all these different characters were responding before these guys turned up.
Okay. Okay. So even though it's after the pilot episode, but this is really the turning point that makes the head what the head is. So episode two opens up when Johan is desperately trying to keep asking Maggie, although her situation is not really clear on
So
what
we come
happened.
back into the present at the beginning of episode two.
Yeah, so we
Yeah.
come back into the present, and in the present, while he's interrogating Maggie, um, they're fixing the communication. And when they're fixing the communication, they're picking up a signal. And
Right.
that signal is the voice of his wife, Annika. It's a recorded message that is being transmitted. And that recorded message is like an SOS message saying, we are in dire trouble. You need to come and save us. And it's coming from somewhere in the station.
Right.
So using this little beacon device, they are going out to find where that communication is coming from. It's not coming from the station. It's coming from the tunnels that are beneath the station. The
Right.
tunnels are built there in case, the snow piles up and there's no way out. There's like a tunnel that goes underneath, and this is where they keep the supplies and everything. When they go into the tunnels, uh, they are attacked by this guy who jumps on them. And when they finally manage to get hold of him, they understand that this is Arthur and he's alive.
Right. Okay.
And he was hiding in the tunnels.
Right.
So we're talking about a guy that's lived in not a good situation. He was frozen and they try to give him something warm to drink and all of that. And when Arthur starts talking, he tells them that something horrible has happened. Somebody has killed all the people in the station, and that somebody is Maggie.
Oh, right. So basically, he's accusing her.
Yes. And when
Right.
they tell it to her, she's saying it's exactly the opposite. The person who killed him is Arthur.
Right. Okay. So basically, so in a way, there are two interconnected pressures on Johann. One is to find his wife, who he is worried that she could still be out there, and secondly is to find out who the murderer is. But also, in finding out who the murderer is, might also help him find out where his wife is.
Exactly. The reason for him to find out who the murderer is not really because he's right now interested in finding justice or truth. It's because
No.
he thinks there is information there that might get him to save his wife in time.
Right.
That's his
That's
burning
his,
thing.
exactly.
What we
And
have.
Go
Sorry,
on.
what we have is two people are now telling us the story of the present. We understand it's two versions.
Yes.
There might be one true version, one false version, but there might be other combinations that we are not aware of. But these are the only people who can supply information about what has happened in the past.
And these, are they able to give any information about where she might be?
Only much, much, much later on.
Yeah, but what stops them? Why is it they're not able to just now say? I mean, presumably he must be asking both of them, irrespective of whether or not you're the killer or you're not the killer. Where is my wife?
So the thing is, and this is really the thing that we struggled with the most when we
Right,
did this reason. Why don't we jump into? So the thing is, Maggie is suffering from this syndrome that happens to people who stay in the winter. It's a medical and emotional kind of syndrome. I think it's called the T3 syndrome.
right,
And that syndrome is something that blurs your understanding of reality.
right,
Like you are in a situation where you do not really know what you're experiencing is reality or something that goes in your mind. So the only way for her to construct the reality is to go step by step and tell it as it happened.
right.
It's a matter of hours, but she's going to do it only step by step, one after the other.
And who
So
is
what
that? Is that what the doctor is sort of saying about her condition to stop him from
exactly?
just grabbing her by the throat and saying, "Where's my wife?"
Exactly. There's a very clear sign for her, which is one of the symptoms of this T3 is that her hand is shaking and the way she speaks and the way she acts. So in order to follow this thing, they need to follow the course of events, how they've happened. And
Right.
that course of events is the storytelling of how each of them got killed, one by other. And the last part of that piece is what happened to Anakin.
What I want to understand is, um, are is the commander and all the people he's working with and all those people alive, which is presuming just it's just those, isn't it? Because these two are under suspicion and everybody else is
Mm-hmm.
dead. Are they all united in his quest to find his wife, or is there a tension between these four or five or whatever people?
There is a tension because we're talking about the South Pole. We're talking about the end of winter. It's not summer yet. So conditions are not easy. There's a storm blazing outside. And while he sends them out to search around and to go other places and to keep digging, while the order from the police was really, really clear, stay put, do nothing, and wait for us. But Johan is so desperate in finding his wife that he disregards everything. For him, there is a ticking clock to saving his wife, and he's not letting go. So he keeps pushing and pushing and pushing in order to find.
So am I right in
And
thinking there? It almost feels like there are three fronts on which Johan can try and find out where his missing wife is. One is literally send people outside, which is dangerous. Secondly is question this guy, and thirdly is question this woman. And there's no other sort of sources of information other than just looking around inside the station, but they've kind of ruled that out already. Those are the three fronts in which Johan can try and find his wife.
as I said before, these people were in the South Pole 8 years ago, and they were working in another research station, which was called Polaris 5.
Right.
And Polaris 5 was burned down 8 years
Right.
ago.
Right.
So, but they think it's the closest base to them, and they think if they can make it maybe to Polaris 5, maybe they can, excavate or take back some sort of communication equipment that was there and use it to get to communicate.
To
So
communicate with
they
who?
with the world to call for help,
But
to
why? But
SOS.
they, I thought, in a way, if that's Polaris 5, right? Understand? I thought, in a way, because I'm trying to look at this guy here, and I'm thinking, where does he feel that the answer lies? Obviously, he's desperate, and that's why I talked about these three different areas.
Mhm.
Because in some ways, for this guy, knowing whether or not she is guilty or he is guilty, doesn't that feel secondary for him finding out where his wife is? Because, for example, it's like that whole thing about, you have two people standing in front of two doors. One tells the lies, always tells a lie, and one always tells the truth. And what is the question you ask to find out which door you should use? I'm wondering, isn't finding the killer secondary? Because, for example, if you do find the killer, that doesn't necessarily mean that the killer is going to tell you where she is. So why does he why is because you put us into a space where we are intrigued as to who the killer is because we always do that when we go into a murder mystery, right? We always want to know who the killer is. But it almost feels like that isn't the driving force. The driving force is, irrespective of who the killer is, I simply want to find out where my wife is.
It's on one hand, it's true, but at the same time, because you have two sources of information, they're the only way for him to find out where his wife is. And to understand which of them is reliable and which is not is a crucial key to get correct information to where his wife is. Without it, it will be impossible for him to find her.
So, is he therefore doing some sort of almost sort of
Interrogation?
yeah, is he interrogating, but is he also trying to sort of find out which one is lying and which one's telling the truth?
Totally.
Right, okay. And so there are, as you said here, you've got her truth and you've got his truth, right? Now, and so it's, and by what is the logic? If I cleverly interrogate both of them, I will decipher who is lying. And by deciphering who is working out who's lying, I can then decide that they are most likely to be the killer. And by finding out that they're the killer, will then lead me to my wife.
Because if I know who the killer is, I know that the other one isn't, and he's a reliable speaker, and his
Yes.
information is reliable. And if he knows that information and he gives it to me, it's reliable. You need to understand, we're not when Johann is looking for his wife, he's not looking for her in a box. He's looking for her in the South Pole.
I got you.
This is
So, but
vast. This
do
is
they
huge.
give conflict? Do we get any sense that either one of them, I know she's got this T3 condition or whatever, and she's
Yeah.
slowly giving out information, but do either one of them give any sense that they might know where she is?
So slowly they are getting us closer to understand when is the moment that Annika disappeared, why she's not at the station, and where she could be. But you have to understand, he's listening to two characters.
Yeah.
One of them is very arrogant. He doesn't like him. He's claiming that he's a victim, and he's blaming it on a young woman who is very vulnerable, who's very shaky, who's very traumatized. Now you pick who you want to believe. It's
Yeah.
not
Okay.
easy.
No, exactly.
So
So what is he doing? Is this a lone quest? Is he basically trying to be the clever detective and trying to sort of piece together the puzzle from this, what he says and what she says, in order to identify who's telling the truth and who's telling a lie?
exactly, he is. He's trying, and also because they are around the station and they are discovering more and more things, they're trying every piece of discovery they bring back to these people and say, okay, what does this mean? What has happened here? One of the discoveries is that they find not far from the station a buried body of another woman, also burnt, but not
Okay.
burnt to that.
Degree,
And
yeah.
when they ask Arthur and Maggie who that body is, Arthur tells them that this is the body of Sarah Jackson. Sarah
Right.
Jackson was a person that worked with them on Polaris 5 8 years ago.
Ah,
And
okay.
Polaris 5 was caught fire and destroyed. Most of the crew managed to escape. The only person that could not escape from Polaris 5 was Sarah Jackson. So when these people went to Polaris 5 to try and bring back some sort of communication, they found their body, her body, and they brought it back to the station and they buried it just outside to keep her.
Right.
Um, and what happened in that station 8 years ago is a crucial piece of information to understanding everything that is happening right now.
Is there anything about their relationship that somehow makes him even more likely to want to find her? Or is it just simply because it's his wife and he misses his
One
wife?
very good question. One of the things that he finds that is at the end of the pilot is a note that she left. He finds it hidden in a room inside of a closet. It's torn because she tried to close. I think she tried to get rid of it and threw it into the trash can. And when he pieces it out, the note says, "Please forgive me. I
Yes,
have blood on my hands."
exactly. Because, yes, this is, I was almost going to get the first. She could be the killer, couldn't she? She could be the killer. So is there any evidence before you got to that? Is there any evidence from these two that starts suggesting to this man that actually he is trying to make a binary choice and he should be making a tertiary choice? He should be also throwing his wife into the mix.
There is something that while he's interrogating Arthur, and keep throwing at him that he could be the killer, Arthur says, there are things you don't know about your wife.
Right.
Be careful when you start interrogating. You might find out things that are not going to be easy for you.
But why then does he blame her, Maggie, for the murders when he could just leave it open and suggest that maybe it is also his wife or Maggie that's killed?
I think the simplest reason is he believes he's telling you the truth.
Right, okay. So what you've got is I've just realized, and I don't know if I'm getting onto something here, okay? You've got someone who's come into a situation who somehow you've got two seemingly unreliable witnesses, but because
Mhm.
of the fact you've got two unreliable witnesses and because you're married to someone, somehow the two unreliable witnesses frame the decision that you believe that you're taking. And by the fact that it's your wife reinforces the idea that you are that the decision you're making between two people is the right framing. When in actual fact, really, what all of these people should be doing, particularly someone who isn't his wife, is to turn around and say, well, hold on a second here. They could be unreliable, they could be reliable and unreliable, and she could actually be the murderer. So
Yes.
does anybody within this group start sort of saying to Johan, Johan, I think you're not being very scientific here. You're supposed to be a scientific commander. You're supposed to be in the space of research. You're supposed to be in a place of objectivity, but you're being unbelievably subjective in the way by which you're framing your thesis that it either has to be him or her.
Yes, and there's also one thing that is important because usually when you go into a crime scene and there are dead bodies and there's a living person, you assume the living person is either a survivor or the killer.
Exactly.
But you do not assume that on dead bodies.
Exactly. Exactly. So in a way, there is oh my God, and it's annoying. There's a sort of false dichotomy arriving here. There is a term in science, and I've forgotten what it's called. I know it's about sort of confirmation bias, but there's something even more. It's both in science and philosophy about the way by which sometimes we frame the decision process making in a very limited way for all sorts of good and bad reasons. And it feels to me there's a certain irony that here you are going to a research center, which is supposed to be cold. I mean, cold objective truth. It's about finding
Mhm,
climate change. It's about making sure that we're all very, very reasoned and rational in our decision making. And
mhm.
you establish that as that being very a sort of pure place of science. And what you do is you put somebody into that, and because of the fact that they are linked emotionally to somebody, it's almost as if their scientific reasoning becomes unraveled and put aside for something that's way more emotive, and they become blind to the evidence around them because of their emotional connection to someone who's lost.
Very much true. And if there is a moment to bring out what the theme is,
Yes.
then this tension between science and emotion, let's say,
Yep.
is what I think the theme of this show is about. Season
Yes.
one also, and
Yes.
then we took it to seasons two and three. Like it's interesting because people are usually divided to those who do top to bottom and those who build from the bottom up. Right? Is the creators who first have a theme and then build story around it, or
Yeah.
the creators who have a great story and try to analyze with your help what the theme is about. And this one is, by definition, was built. We didn't know what the theme is.
Yeah.
We built the story, we built the plot.
Yep.
And that is really, really interesting because I think without really understanding, because there was a core there, the construct was built around that core without really understanding it.
Yes.
So it all boils down to in episode five of the series, when we go back to what happened in
That was the
Polaris.
point that your friend noticed in episode five, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
in episode five, when we go back to what happened there.
Yeah.
So what happened there is Dr. Arthur Wilde, who is many, many things, but also a womanizer,
Right.
was trying to force himself on this Sarah Jackson. And while he
Oh.
did that, yeah,
Yeah.
while he did that, it became like a struggle between them, and he pushed her, not intending to murder her, but he pushed her and killed her, and she died. So the situation was that the people that are lying now here dead, together with Arthur and Annika, were facing a dilemma because they had a guy who they knew killed another woman, And at the same time, they're on the brink of finding
Ah,
this genius, exactly, this lost ark of science, solving climate crisis, saving the lives of
yeah,
9 billion people. But
yes,
they knew that if they're going to shut everything down and call the police and say the head scientist has done this and this, the entire scientific operation is going to go down the drain.
yes,
Nobody's going to invest money in it. Nothing is
yes,
going to happen.
yes,
So you are in a situation which seems very easy when we're sitting here and talking and the temperature is right. But the situation is that you are able to save humanity
mm,
or you do the just thing.
yes.
What do you do?
What do you do?
It's not that easy.
No.
And that decision is the core of the head.
Yes, and it makes you realize that also when you're in that situation where you're really trying to assess the value of two different things against each other, and that you're in this moral complexity, it actually makes people very fragile because they've only got to, they're actually, it means everybody's on a knife edge and they've only got to step 1 millimeter that way, and then suddenly, and for someone to suspect that they've traveled 1 millimeter that way or 1 millimeter, well, actually that way's safe, but if they go that way towards the moral side, they are a risk to the kind of the equilibrium that he thought that he's got, and that's why you then maybe have to kill people because it becomes, and then. But the irony of it is, as you start killing more people, then it might shift more people to the moral side because they're sort of going, well, I could deal with one person dying, but the idea of two people dying, and also the idea of me dying. So it's a very interesting thing about the way by which we assess the value of things. And as you say, and we see this in war, don't we? About, collateral damage and the way that we define things and the way that the distance we give ourselves. But the beauty of it is that you're in a contained space. You're not 35,000 feet in an aeroplane making some moral judgment about the collateral damage. You're actually in the space, which makes it.
Exactly. And the actual size of the equation are not science and humanity. It's a greater cause, morality.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is there, because you spoke about war, is there something that is such a great cause that I'm willing to shut down my morality? And you
Yes.
understand that once you shut down your morality, even for a split second, it was never a split second. You shut it down, you went, as they say in Star Wars, to the dark side.
Yes.
Once you go to the dark side, you're in the dark side, and you will pay for it eventually.
Yes.
In years to come, you have crossed the line,
You
and
cross
that
it. Yeah,
line
exactly.
is irreversible. That is what the head is about.
You're right. Okay.
And what I understood only years later, which is amazing, because the story is, I'm now spoiling for whoever hasn't seen
It's
season one,
okay.
but the story is that the woman that was killed at Sarah Jackson, Maggie Mitchell, is actually not Maggie Mitchell. She is her daughter.
Oh, oh my word.
And she came back to take vengeance on all these people who said,
Ah, yeah,
let her
yeah,
die.
yeah,
We are
yeah.
doing that. And that's what's really amazing and what enabled us to do season two and season
Got you.
three.
I got you.
Because in season two, Arthur and Maggie just switched sides. And
Yes.
actually, what Maggie is doing is exactly what Arthur has done. Her great cause is vengeance, so she puts morality on the side.
Yes. Exactly.
It's
So,
they're exactly
yes.
the same,
Exactly.
which is
So
what
that,
makes it so fascinating. They're
yes.
exactly the same. So she is killing people who are responsible, but also one innocent guy here and one
Yeah.
innocent woman here, because it's okay, because the greater cause is more important than morality.
Exactly.
Once you understand that, the season is very, very easy. And then it was not easy, but
Yes.
we had a clear path of how to do season two and then
What to
season
drive
three.
it. And I think what's interesting, and I should let you go, but I think what's really interesting here is that you could say that, I mean, when you say the bottom up approach or the top down approach, and I think it's often a very iterative process
True,
I try to
true.
encourage people into, but they often, as you say, sometimes you just
I
work
agree.
from the bottom up. I think what's interesting that there are particular genres that actually the bottom up approach can sort of be easier within because in a way there's a framework that's established by. So the classic is detective, murder, mystery, because in a way we sort of understand that the plot then can sort of drive us in a direction that is almost preformed, which is the notion of who's the killer and are people going to be safe. I think when you get into that's not to say that doesn't devalue the necessity of theme, but it does mean that you can get further with something because of the fact that the genre itself sort of gives you that
I, I
framework.
I would say this, and I think it's really important. There's a genre in television called whodunit. I understand the genre, but in order to write a whodunit, the most important question you need to ask yourself is why did he do it?
Totally.
That is the thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And And then I totally agree with you. Sometimes there's a story, there's a plot that's burning inside you that you or the writer that you need to write it down because you have so many great ideas that you
Yeah,
don't want to let them go to waste because first you need to understand the why. No, no, no. Put it all down.
yeah,
Write until you get to a wall. At some point you will hit a wall because without understanding the why, there are so many things you
totally.
can think of without really. And then you need to take a look and understand the why and then reconstruct.
Exactly.
Um,
There's a really nice example of that where somebody went to the ultimate level of the why, which is adolescence. Have you seen adolescence?
of course I did.
Because if that's not a who done it, it's a why done it, and you know that because they tell you who did it at the beginning. So what
Yeah.
they do is they basically just put that aside and then say, right, now let's just focus on the why, and that's so. Would I say brave? But I just think what's so brilliant about it because you realize that we are just being drawn into a thematic question throughout that, rather than having to sort of say, well, did he? It's about why did he do it? What are the all the elements that are going on as to why it is that a young teenage boy would kill his classmate?
Because when you try to innovate in a field that has been so, there's so many ways of doing it. One of the ways to do it is to turn the box around. To say, okay, I'm doing a who done it that starts off by knowing who has done it in minute number one.
Yeah.
Now everything is going to be very different because I'm doing it in this way. Or you can say, okay, I'm doing a who done it, but nobody knows who the victim is until the last episode. When you do twists like that, it enables you to innovate in a field where people have done many things before you.
Mm, that's so good. Listen, thank you so much. Let's have one quick look
No,
at
thank
that. There you
you.
go. It's nice to do it again, and it's so nice to go through
It's
a project. The last time we did it with Green.
Homeland.
Well, we did a Homeland, which was
Yeah.
what was the Israeli name for that? I've forgotten now.
Patufin Prisoners of War, done
Right,
by
that's it.
Guillermo.
Right, yeah, and
Yeah.
we mapped that out. And also, didn't we do Yellow Peppers? I think, which was the
Could have been. Could have
the
been.
the
Yeah,
the
that's
the
a show I
the,
love.
the yeah the A word was that called? No,
Yeah, it's a Karen Margalit show.
yeah.
It's a brilliant, brilliant show. Super, super, where the theme is communication. Although
Right.
people think it's about autism, it's not.
No,
It's
that's
about
just the
communication.
subject, right? From what I remember, the
Yeah.
subject
Yeah.
areas, but the thing, and this is really interesting. We could go on forever, but we won't. We will stop it there.
Thank
So
you,
nice
Paul.
doing this with you. Thank you, sir. You take care, and
I will do my
yeah.
best.
All right, you take care, and be
Okay,
safe
good.
out there. Be safe. Bye
Bye.
bye. See you around. Bye bye.